Hello, my name is Damon Rocha, and I'm working on an adaptive orbit self-improving CubeSat. For my update this week, I got a small language model running on my CubeSat computer, which right now is just the Raspberry Pi. It runs in kind of a little sandbox that I've created where it can generate certain missions based off of the SDK. And then there's a validator that goes through and checks to make sure that it's not gone off the rails and built something that it shouldn't have, or worked on files or read from files it shouldn't have read from. There'll be a demo in a little bit that kind of goes through that. Um, and then on the circuit side of things, I set up a basic photonic communication system using a IR sensor and then a receiver. And I have it right now where it just sends back and forth to the same board, turn on light command or like make a light blink command. And where I want to go with this is take this from just being on the board to being a full-on communication system between multiple computers. And then for the last part of like what I've worked on this week is I also set up a capabilities endpoint so that way a satellite can tell you what it's able to do. So the one I currently have can say, I can take pictures and I can give you some system stats. And I would like to expand this where any satellite can add like what type of sensors they have on board and what they're willing to rent out and let other people use. As for where I'm going, next week I have a meeting with my mentor. I want to reach out to some accelerators and incubators, finish up a validator, go through some model tuning. This works well enough for a small mission, but for larger missions it actually has run into a few problems. I'll go over that briefly in the demo, but that's where I'm at with that, and then set up a repair loop where so the agent, when it does run into issues, can actually fix itself. And so from here I want to jump over to the demos, so I'll see you over there. For the first demo, I want to cover the agent I've set up. So currently you can call the agent with a new candidate file where it will take your query, which right here is take 15 pictures, and it will generate a mission file based off this. So in this case, it was successful in generating a mission file, and I'll show that a little later, but you can see that it went through and called some tools to go through a tool loop so that it could generate this manifest.json and this mission.py, and here this allows the satellite to take 15 pictures with 2-minute rest in between. Then from there we can use the runner CLI to call this mission that was generated by the agent. As you can see there's no images in that file yet, so now it's going through and taking pictures. It's a little annoying that we're still having this show up over everything, but as you can see, if we just ignore that, we see that the state is running and it is going through and taking pictures, and the code here is entirely generated by the agent. So there's a small problem in that it shows a failure at the end, but the core logic works currently. This was a different mission I'd worked on, and then here's a much more complex one that actually isn't 100% working yet, but it's at a good starting point. And so I'll keep going with that to get this validation working. And now on to the hardware demo. So using a breadboard, I set up an IR transmitter and receiver. Currently all you can do is tell a light to turn on or off. And so instead of the command going through the Pi itself, it goes through that transmitter, received by the receiver, and then loops back into the Pi to run the commands.